It was meant to be a routine confirmation hearing, another nominee, another round of standard questions and predictable answers echoing through the marble halls of the Senate. But when Senator Sheldon Whitehouse rose from his seat that cold December morning, everyone sensed that this hearing would be different. The Rhode Island Democrat had spent weeks preparing, armed with evidence that would turn Kash Patel's FBI confirmation into one of the most damaging confrontations in Senate history. This wouldn't be a polite discussion about credentials. It was about to become a public dismantling. Hart Senate Office Building, Committee Room 216, December 18th, 2025. For Kash Patel, this was supposed to be the defining moment of his career, his confirmation as director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. After years of service within the Trump administration and surviving numerous controversies, he was finally within reach of leading the nation's top law enforcement agency. But Senator Whitehouse had other intentions. The 70-year-old Washington veteran had built a reputation for precision, discipline, and relentless questioning. He had prosecuted organized crime as a federal attorney, fought corporate corruption as Rhode Island's Attorney General, and spent more than a decade in the Senate perfecting the art of the political takedown. And now, all that experience was aimed at one objective: to dismantle Kash Patel's credibility so completely that his nomination would collapse before it began. Whitehouse's opening move was designed to stun. Before Patel could launch into his prepared remarks about experience and justice, the senator struck hard. "Regarding your publication of your enemies list," Whitehouse began, his voice steady and deliberate, Mr. Patel declared, "The manhunt starts tomorrow," and reposted a video showing himself taking a chainsaw to his political opponents. The words lingered like an indictment. A chainsaw video, political enemies, a manhunt. These were not the words of a potential FBI director. They were threats from someone treating law enforcement as a weapon of political retribution. Patel's reply came quickly but lacked conviction. "Senator, I had nothing to do with creating that news piece," he said. Whitehouse interrupted sharply. "Is that you reposting it? That was my question." The trap was perfect. Patel could deny making the video but not sharing it. "That's me at the top," he finally admitted, voice subdued. It was a devastating concession. The man seeking to lead the FBI had publicly shared an image of himself attacking political rivals with a chainsaw. The picture was disturbing, the implications worse, and the admission complete. But Whitehouse was far from finished. The chainsaw clip was only his opening strike. He had spent weeks compiling a record that would dismantle every part of Patel's claim to leadership of the FBI. "Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Mr. Patel," Whitehouse continued, his tone polite but cutting. "I remember January 6th, colleagues running through these halls to escape the mob. Shouts that rioters should be stopped by any means, and then returning to our constitutional duty through corridors cleared by SWAT teams carrying automatic weapons." The weight of that memory filled the room. Whitehouse was invoking the shared trauma of that day, reminding everyone how close American democracy had come to collapse. He was also asserting his moral authority. He had witnessed it. He had survived it. He had the standing to question anyone who downplayed or excused what occurred. "None of us," he continued, voice rising with control, "none of us said those violent rioters should be pardoned. A Republican colleague called that idea hard to believe, even absurd. Your former colleague J.D. Vance said violent rioters should not be pardoned. Even Jim Jordan said pardons should focus on those who committed no violence." Each name struck like a hammer. These weren't liberal critics. They were Republicans, Trump loyalists who had condemned the idea of pardoning the January 6th rioters. "Well, Trump pardoned them all," Whitehouse said, pausing for effect. "And there's a lesson in that. Every time you think Trump wouldn't go that far, think again." The message was unmistakable. Trump's extremism had no limits, and anyone tied to him, Patel included, was tainted by that legacy. Whitehouse then turned to the broader danger of Trump's pardons. "We all agree violence against police is unacceptable," he said. Yet over 600 individuals who assaulted Capitol police officers were released. part of a 1,500-person Trump army now walking free. People proven willing to act violently on Trump's orders. The phrase Trump Army sent a chill through the room. Whitehouse was suggesting that the pardoned rioters weren't just former offenders. They were a loyal force ready to mobilize again. And now Trump wanted to install Kash Patel, a man who had glorified violence against political opponents, as head of the FBI. In only 10 days, Whitehouse continued, some of them are already reoffending. The senator underscored the immediacy of the threat. Trump's actions had real, dangerous consequences. Then he moved to the next example of reckless pardons. As a committee, we've worked to combat online drug trafficking. We all oppose murder for hire. Yet Trump pardoned a dark web operator serving life for trafficking narcotics online and accused of arranging contract killings. The implication was stark. Trump had granted clemency to a criminal involved in murder plots. Those pardons, as Mr. Patel himself said, were a mistake, Whitehouse acknowledged. But they're also a warning. We're entering a strange and perilous era. With that, the senator turned to Patel's own record. The methodical dismantling began. Here are the warnings from this nominee's former colleagues in the Trump administration, Whitehouse said, adopting a prosecutor's tone. Former Attorney General Bill Barr stated, this nominee has virtually no experience qualifying him to lead the world's foremost law enforcement agency. He would never command the respect required to run the Bureau's daily operations. Barr's words carried immense weight. As Trump's own Attorney General and once a loyal defender, Barr's judgment was damning. If even he deemed Patel unfit, the message was clear. But Whitehouse continued. Former CIA Director Gina Haspel reportedly threatened to resign rather than have this nominee serve under her. Haspel's opposition spoke volumes. She had worked closely with Patel and evidently doubted both his competence and his integrity. Then came John Bolton's testimony. I didn't think he was qualified, Bolton said. I was forced to hire him. The admission was revealing. Patel hadn't been selected for his merit, but out of political pressure from above. Finally came the harshest critique from Patel's direct superior. Trump's deputy national security advisor, this nominee's former supervisor, said, his ideas are ludicrous. He's absolutely unqualified for this position. He's untrustworthy, and it's a disgrace to even consider him. The language was brutal, ludicrous, unqualified, disgrace. These weren't partisan Democrats speaking. They were Republican appointees who had worked with Patel firsthand and found him fundamentally unfit. That's from Republican officials who worked beside him, Whitehouse emphasized, ensuring the committee grasped the bipartisan condemnation. With that foundation laid, Whitehouse turned to Patel's own words and actions. And here, he continued, is what this nominee himself has said about using his office to prosecute journalists. Quoting directly, Whitehouse read, "We will go out and find the conspirators not just in government, but in the media. We're coming after you whether criminally or civilly." The statement was chilling. Patel wasn't discussing law enforcement in the context of justice. He was talking about targeting journalists and silencing critics through prosecution. Is that an accurate quotation, Mr. Patel? Whitehouse asked. Patel hesitated. Senator, that's a partial quotation, but it's correct in part, he conceded. He didn't deny it because he couldn't. There was video evidence. He tried to frame it as taken out of context, but the damage was already done. He had threatened journalists, and under oath, he had admitted it. Whitehouse then returned to the chainsaw video and the enemies list, the opening attack that had already left Patel on the defensive. Regarding your publication of your enemies list, he repeated. Mr. Patel declared, the manhunt starts tomorrow, and reposted a video of himself taking a chainsaw to his political opponents. Is that you, Kash Patel, reposting that at the top of the page? The repetition was deliberate. Whitehouse wanted every senator, every journalist, and every viewer watching the hearing to grasp exactly what Patel had done. He had created an enemies list. He had announced a manhunt. He had shared violent imagery targeting political rivals. Patel's response was the same weak denial he had offered earlier. Senator, I had nothing to do with creating that video. Is that you reposting it? Whitehouse pressed again. That's me at the top, Patel admitted once more. The pattern was now unmistakable. Patel continued trying to distance himself from the content, yet he couldn't deny his role in spreading it. He might not have produced violent material himself, but he had willingly amplified it for political effect. Whitehouse, however, had saved his most damaging revelation for last. You've said FBI agents were responsible for the violence on January 6th, and I quote you directly, beyond a reasonable doubt. Did you say that? It was the ultimate conspiracy theory. Patel hadn't merely downplayed the January 6th attack. He had pushed the false claim that the FBI itself had caused the violence. The accusation was so extreme, so detached from fact, that even many Trump allies had avoided it. That's completely incorrect, Senator, Patel said defensively, and I appreciate the opportunity to address that. Whitehouse cut him off. You'll have that opportunity in writing. This is my time. Have at it, Patel muttered, an answer that came across as either defiant or resigned. Then came the most devastating moment of the hearing. An Inspector General investigation found that claim to be false, Whitehouse said. And you also said judges who ruled against Donald Trump should be impeached, calling them, in your words, political terrorists. The contrast was powerful. Patel had embraced a debunked conspiracy theory and demanded the removal of judges who upheld the law. He had shown disdain for both truth and judicial independence, the very foundations of the justice system he sought to lead. Whitehouse wasn't finished. When this nominee tries to explain all of this away, keep one thing in mind, he said. He has testified under oath before a Colorado judge in a Trump-related case. And the judge concluded, and I quote, he was not a credible witness. His testimony was not only illogical, but completely devoid of any evidence. That's from a judge. The impact was immediate. A federal judge, an expert in assessing truthfulness, had formally deemed Patel untrustworthy. His sworn testimony had been irrational and unsupported by evidence. It was a professional evaluation that cut directly to Patel's fitness for any leadership role requiring integrity. As Whitehouse concluded his methodical takedown, he framed the hearing within a larger warning about democracy under strain. This is a dangerous moment, he said, and I ask my colleagues, will these plain statements by this nominee and his own former Trump colleagues be ignored, or will their warnings finally be heeded? The comparison was pointed. Just as many had ignored the risks of pardoning violent January 6th offenders, Whitehouse cautioned against dismissing the clear evidence of Patel's unfitness. There is a vast difference, he continued, between the carefully managed image presented here today and what this nominee has actually said and done when left to his own judgment. Conduct reveals character. It was a simple but devastating line. Whatever Patel promised in that room about justice, impartiality, or law enforcement, his actions told a different story. He had circulated violent imagery. He had threatened journalists. He had promoted conspiracy theories. And a federal judge had found him unreliable under oath. Whitehouse's closing remarks drew on lessons from history. If you study authoritarian regimes, he said, you see the danger of security chiefs who become tools of political power. They are often vengeful, grandiose, intemperate, partisan, blindly loyal, and servile, unwilling to say no. Each description was an accusation aimed squarely at Patel. Vengeful, his enemies' list and manhunt. Rhetoric. Grandiose, his self-promotion in social media. Bravado. Intemperate, the chainsaw video and inflammatory. Speech. Partisan, his unwavering loyalty to, Trump. Servile, his readiness to support any claim that benefited his patron. I fear, Whitehouse concluded, that the record of this nominee's conduct raises every one of those red flags. The hearing room fell silent. In under 15 minutes, Whitehouse had methodically dismantled Patel's qualifications, credibility, and character. Using Patel's own words, as well as testimony from former Republican officials, he had painted a portrait of someone wholly unfit to lead the FBI. The aftermath was immediate chaos. Republican members scrambled to defend Patel, but the evidence, his own admissions, and the statements of his former colleagues was impossible to ignore. Democrats seized the opportunity to press for deeper scrutiny. Media coverage was dominated by Whitehouse's performance. The chainsaw video, in particular, became a viral flashpoint, with Patel's acknowledgement replayed across news outlets and social media. The image of a would-be FBI director sharing violent political content was too explosive to dismiss. Legal analysts dissected the implications of Patel's remarks about targeting journalists and his claims about January 6th. Former FBI officials publicly warned of the danger of politicizing law enforcement. Civil liberties organizations demanded the nomination be withdrawn. Even more telling was the silence from many Republican senators. With figures like Bill Barr, Gina Haspel, and John Bolton already on record criticizing Patel, defending him had become politically untenable. Over the following days, new information surfaced, reinforcing Whitehouse's portrayal. Former officials described Patel's attempts to direct intelligence agencies against Trump's opponents. Ethics experts questioned his involvement in controversial Trump-era operations. The nomination, already fragile, began to collapse. Even Trump's allies privately conceded that Patel might not be worth the political cost of confirmation. For Senator Whitehouse, the hearing marked the pinnacle of a long career rooted in accountability and the rule of law. Through preparation, precision, and prosecutorial skill, he had reshaped a national debate and exposed what he viewed as a serious threat to democratic governance. The hearing would be remembered as one of the most forceful Senate interrogations in recent memory, a case study in how to dismantle a nomination using evidence, discipline, and the nominee's own record. Whether it would ultimately end Patel's bid remained uncertain, but there was no doubt Whitehouse had exposed profound concerns about his suitability for leadership. The chainsaw video became the defining image of the controversy, a symbol of Patel's reckless approach to law enforcement, his willingness to use violent imagery for political purposes, and his disregard for professional restraint. In just 15 minutes, Sheldon Whitehouse had revealed, in the most public way possible, who Kash Patel truly was. Whether the nation would heed that warning was yet to be seen. But the story didn't end there. Within half an hour of the hearing's close, clips of Patel's admissions flooded social media. The hashtags #DamarChainsgate and $PatelUnfit began trending nationwide. The image of a potential FBI director endorsing violent rhetoric was too striking even for many Trump loyalists to defend. Then came an unprecedented statement from the FBI Agents Association, representing over 14,000 active agents. The men and women of the FBI deserve leadership that reflects the highest standards of professionalism, integrity, and respect for the Constitution. Recent disclosures raise serious questions about whether this nominee meets those standards. For the Bureau's own agents to question a nominee's fitness was virtually unheard of. It signaled a complete loss of confidence from those he sought to. Lead and former FBI directors soon followed. James Comey called the video antithetical to everything the Bureau stands for. More notably, Christopher Wray, fired by Trump to clear the way for Patel, broke his silence to express deep concern over the ongoing politicization of federal law enforcement. Meanwhile, Patel struggled to contain the fallout. Appearing on a conservative podcast, he tried to justify the video. "We live in an era of political warfare," he said. "Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire, but I've always respected the law and people's rights." The comment backfired. His supporters wanted defiance. His critics saw confirmation of his combative worldview. Fight fire with fire only underscored the violent tone that had sparked the controversy. Legal experts weighed in. Harvard's Lawrence Tribe wrote that Patel's threats against journalists and his false claims about federal agents reflect a fundamental misunderstanding of law enforcement's role in a constitutional democracy. Then came more damaging discoveries. Researchers uncovered years of inflammatory posts from Patel's social media accounts, memes celebrating the imprisonment of reporters, images glorifying violence against opponents, and a steady stream of debunked conspiracy theories. As this pattern emerged, the political calculus shifted. Several Republican senators expressed unease. Senator Susan Collins told reporters she was troubled by the repeated pattern of reckless statements. Senator Lisa Murkowski went further, calling Patel's record deeply concerning. The White House faced an impossible choice: stand by Patel and defend the indefensible, or withdraw the nomination and face political embarrassment. Democratic senators moved to delay the vote, demanding more records. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announced that the Senate will not rush this nomination until every question is answered. Behind the scenes, Republican strategists began acknowledging the obvious. When you lose the confidence of your own future employees and members of your own party express doubts, one GOP consultant said, "You're in serious trouble." For Whitehouse, the outcome was secondary to the principle. He had used evidence, preparation, and clarity to expose what he saw as a dangerous misunderstanding of justice and power. His performance reminded the nation why accountability still matters and why character remains the foundation of public trust.